I think it's important. This morning there's a story about Alan Bates and the Horizon scandal that continues and continues and continues because of efforts by the government, by the post office, simply to duck responsibility. And here is Sir Ed Davey, who leads the Lib Dems, and he is a minor footnote of bureaucratic failure, but in the most grievous miscarriage of justice in modern British history, the Post Office Horizon scandal, even a minor footnote is important. Over 900 sub-postmasters wrongly accused, their reputations ruined, livelihoods lost, families devastated, some imprisoned, some died before exoneration. And into this moral catastrophe comes a senior politician, Sir Ed Davey. Sir Ed served as Minister for Postal Affairs from 2010 to 2012 in the coalition government. And at that moment, the Horizon IT system, faulty from its inception, was already wreaking havoc, and people knew. Sub-postmasters were being prosecuted for shortfalls that existed only within Fujitsu's flawed code. And what did Ed Davey do? He received a letter from Sir Alan Bates, founder of the Justice for Sub-Postmasters Alliance. It took him 5 months to reply. He's since called this delay poorly judged and has now apologised. But that is not enough. He is a senior politician leading one of the parties that could well end up as His Majesty's loyal opposition. It could even conceivably get into government. This was not a calendar error. This was a political choice, and that choice to delay engagement with victims enabled injustice to continue. So Ed was advised against meeting Bates because the post office was considered operationally independent. But when ministers lean on procedural autonomy to avoid moral scrutiny, they abandon their duty. Davey eventually met Bates in October 2010, becoming the first minister to do so. Admirable perhaps, but also astonishingly late. When the public inquiry summoned Davey, he said he was misled by post office executives, notably Paula Venables and David Smith. He said he received categorical assurances about Horizon's robustness. But he also admitted something more damning. He asked no independent questions, no external audit, no technical probe, nothing that might have pieced the institutional self-confidence of a failing system, that might have pieced that jigsaw together, and that might have explained or at least helped to raise the question marks around this failure. He accepted the word of those who were, as we now know, engaged in systematic deception. Some argue that Davey was just one of the many ministers to hold the brief. And some would argue that Paula Venables and who's the other person, David Smith, were just individuals caught up in something that they couldn't control. That they are the alleged failures were not of their doing. The point is, these are the people who are fronting major organisations, said Davey, Paula Venables, and David Smith. And when you're fronting an organisation, that comes with responsibility. And Labour and Conservative ministers alike failed, but few still in frontline politics preside over this chapter of the story, and few and still now lead national parties seeking public trust. Ed Davey is one of the few. Davey's apology, published in The Guardian, used words like regret and sorry, but the phrase that lingers is this: I fell for post office lies. That may be true. But the victims of Horizon didn't fall. They were pushed. By a machine, yes. By institutions, yes. By people like Paula Venables, yes. And Davey was, for a time, one of those institutions. That is the point, and he is still in power. To be misled is forgivable. To fail to interrogate power is not, especially when lives hang in the balance. And to do nothing now, to spend your time canoeing or playing water sports for the camera, to draw attention to your party, that's not enough. If you sit with power, you have a responsibility to use that power to help others. So what is to be done? Is it enough to apologise? Is it enough to say, as Davey does, that he now wishes to improve the system? No, it's not. If public accountability is to mean everything, it must sometimes involve personal cost. We cannot ask junior civil servants to be fired whilst knights of the realm carry on as if sorrow were a sufficient substitute for justice. I don't argue that Sir Ed Davey is uniquely culpable, but I do argue this. If the Lib Dems wish to campaign as a party of ethics, decency and reform, when their leader cannot hide behind the veil of being merely misled and not doing anything. If he were doing something, if he were actively supporting and helping Sir Alan Bates to get the compensation which is his right, as is the right of all the people caught up in the post office scandal, then there might be something to exonerate Sir Ed Davey, but he doesn't do that. He doesn't do that, or if he does do that, it's so quiet and unobserved that it is pointless. He is a man who is leading a party. He should lead the cavalry charge against this injustice. He should be, as one of the few people left in power after this scandal, he should be one of the people demonstrably clearing up the pieces. Otherwise, he should resign. He must lead the charge for redress. He must be seen to lead the charge for redress. And there are two options for him. Two options, only two options. Resign or be seen to do something. And he's doing neither. He must demand the return of all the stolen years and stolen reputations. He must call for criminal investigations into those who knowingly withheld truth. And yes, he must seriously consider whether he can continue credibly in the post he now occupies while carrying this baggage of inaction. Leadership demands more than an apology. It demands responsibility. And the true test is not whether one is to blame, but whether one is willing to act to help. Whether one is actively prepared to fix the problems that were part of his remit in the past. The problems took place. The problems were there when he was in charge. He's still in charge. He's still a public figure. Either he does something or he resigns. The moment calls for more than contrition. It calls for consequence.